So, well, hopefully he won't mind. I call him Benny. Okay. No worries.
Yeah, but I got to switch technology here because I can't get the iPad up with the link that was sent. So I got to switch back over here. So give me a second if you can. Otherwise, I can't see face. Well, I can't enter anything on face. Yeah, maybe I can switch this up. What's it doing? Let's try that. Yeah, fun. Brother Doss, pleasure to meet you there.
Likewise, sir. Likewise, sir. Nice to meet you. I'm very excited.
All right, let's see where I might try to do this here. Okay, I'm gonna switch this up then. All right, I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna switch this up a little bit. We're good. Okay. It says live video hasn't started yet. Still getting live video hasn't started. I don't know why I'm getting that. Got this. Turn that down. Hey, I will call you back after I'm done with this forum. Thank you. When I Yeah, it still says live video not there. When I first went in, huh? Interesting. I still don't have it. Facebook is telling you you're live. I don't have it. That's what I just saw. It said plans to go live and it disappeared. And I have plans to go live, but I'm not getting any feed. Oh, that's backwards. Hmm. So I could, come on, not letting me do this. Yeah. All right, now I have it. Got a countdown timer. It looked like the countdown timer window splash screen is up, but we got live. Okay. Okay. I understand.
Awesome.
All right. So welcome everybody to our Caliper Forum. It has been a little while since we've been on here, but I think tonight we have a treat for all those who join us. I know we got stimulus checks coming in, people with children or grandchildren ready to head off to college, and all that talks about money. And so we want to talk about, some money here tonight, some money matters as we call it. With us tonight, we have Demetrius Doss, who is someone I got to know, I guess, about 2 years ago. Um, and he came to do a seminar on college funding, was so enamored with his presentation that we set up a personal meeting with him. And then, at least with my personal finances, I have entrusted him with those. We've had him here at Mount Zion once, and we had him at another church here in town once. But now with COVID, rather than try to get him in the building, we worked it out with all the regulatory, entities for him to be able to be here with us tonight. And I will preface his talk with there are some things he may not be able to discuss on this particular forum, but if you contact him directly and he'll provide you his contact information, we'll provide you the contact information, he can get that answer to you. But just be forewarned that there are some things just because of regulations he cannot discuss in this forum. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over and turn you over to Demetrius Doss.
Hey, well, greatly appreciate that, Pastor Keith. So happy to be here with you and Mr. V, and also all the people who are on Facebook or wherever you may be on your mobile devices. Very exciting. We're going to have a quick chat in regards to the fundamentals of financial well-being. Before I get too far in, want you guys to know my contact info, my email address, and my direct line for my cell phone. Because of COVID, like most people, I work a lot remotely, and I can't even tell you the last time that I actually received a phone call on the landline here. So I just give people my personal cell phone. So again, if you have any questions about anything, as Pastor Keith had mentioned, this is going to be a general overview. We won't dive too deep into one specific topic in regards to when it comes to finances, but this is just really foundational, awesome gold nuggets that no matter where you are, whether you're, an 18 to 20-year-old, or whether you're a young adult, whether you're a seasoned adult, or whether you are more seasoned. I ain't gonna say anybody is old, but whether you're more seasoned, I think that you can walk away with some financial tidbits, some financial gold nuggets that I think would be valuable to you wherever you are in your walk of life. So what I'll do is every 2 or 3 slides, I'll pause just to see if there are any questions that I can address. I'll have to address them in a general sense because of the form where we are from a compliance standpoint. I can't give a specific advice to someone in a public forum. That's a no-no in our industry. So just try to make your questions as generic and not specific to you because it can look like that I'm giving you specific personal advice on a public forum. Again, that's a no-no. So without further ado, we will jump into it, and I am excited. Financial IQ, the fundamentals of financial well-being. Hopefully everyone can see me on Facebook. They can see my screen. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. They should be able to see your slide deck.
Awesome. First, a word from the compliance department when it comes to these type of presentations. I'm sure you have seen them before. I will not be giving tax or legal advice or talking, diving into about like, estate planning or taxes or any type of legalities whatsoever. So just giving a general overview. Again, this is the what we like to call the commercial from our lawyers in regards to compliance here at our office. So we are going to dive in. So what is exactly financial well-being? So just some bullet points. Having control over day-to-day and your month-to-month finances. If you don't really understand, or you don't see, or you don't have a goal for where you'll be in the next 5 months financially, how will you be able to ascertain or analyze or set goals and objectives regarding where you'll be financially in the next 5 to 10 years? Sounds pretty simple, but as an advisor, someone that even pre-COVID, I traveled quite a bit, and each year I probably average sitting in front of anywhere from 100 to 200 different families each year. You would be amazed at how many families who are well off don't really have control in regards to their month-to-month and day-to-day finances. So that's important no matter where you are in life. Having the capacity to absorb a financial shock. Hello, COVID-19. How many families, how many people did you guys know who pre-COVID, they had great jobs, all of a sudden the coronavirus hit, and all of a sudden they were either furloughed or they now went from a decent to high-paying salary to now having unemployment. So having the capacity to absorb a financial shock is very, very important when it comes to the overall health and financial well-being of individuals. being on track to meet your financial goals. We're going to talk about goals and objectives, how to set them, making sure that the goals are specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. And then also having the financial freedom to make choices that allow one to enjoy life. I mentioned this a lot, and sometimes it's eye-popping to people. Your goal should not be to be rich. It should be to have financial freedom, because depending upon where you are and where you're located, the status of being rich in West Virginia is different than the status of being rich in Beverly Hills. Trust me, I spent, 5 years in West Virginia at college and met my amazing wife, and that's where I got my education. But I can tell you, there's a lot of people in West Virginia that making 60 grand is the definition of being rich in West Virginia. It's not the poo-poo on the mountain state, but it's just a reality of the economic difference state to state. Now that person is making 60K, you put them in Tyson's Corner and they might literally be on the corner, right? And so it's not about rich or wealthy, it's understanding what financial freedom means. Do you have the flexibility to be able to have a good quality of life and standard of living no matter where you are? That's important. So we're going to chat about that. So just from a table of content standpoint, we're going to talk about goal setting, income goals. People will be like, well, what's that? I'm going to dive into it a little bit. Income goals, saving goals, which is important, making sure that you have the liquidity, that your life isn't predicated upon the amount of space that you have on your credit card. We're going to talk about that. Retirement goals, obviously those are important unless you planning on working forever. Most of us that's on this webinar, or whether you're on Facebook, most of us have some type of goal that by age such and such, I want to be able to have a lifestyle where I'm not working and every day is a Saturday. We're going to talk about that from a numbers standpoint. What does that exactly look like? And then the big one, debt payment goal. No matter where I go, whether I'm doing webinars and seminars in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, or Florida, or I just did one in Chattanooga, Tennessee last week, Oregon, Texas, no matter where I find myself when it comes to doing these type of presentations, debt payment, debt is one of the obstacles that can not just financially, but mentally keep you from living the best life that you believe you can have. And so addressing that and having a plan for that sooner rather than later will put you on the path to complete financial freedom. We'll talk real quick about goal settings in regards to the overview. Prioritize your financial goals. If you don't have your goals prioritized in regards to them being important, then how do you know what is important, right? So here are just some examples. Getting out of debt, home ownership, retirement, college, etc. Now, some of you might not be in debt, right? So your goals may be home ownership, retirement, college, right? Some of you may not have children, so the college piece might not be applicable. Some people may not, aspire to have home ownership, right? I know a lot of people who live in New York City and they love just being able to be in an apartment, and if they get tired of it, they can move. They're not, tied to that real estate for 15 to 30 years, etc. So wherever you are, whatever your goals are, prioritize them based on based on their importance to you. I think that will be extremely, because then once you start to have goals, especially based on the importance of those goals, you'll start to see effort. You'll start to make progress, and that's a very foundational way to put yourself in a position where you were on track for financial freedom. Again, if you don't know, if you don't have a goal in mind of what your end of the rainbow looks like, then how do you know what an end of the rainbow looks like? And I know that sounds simple, but basic just understanding and prioritizing your financial goals will give you will allow you to be organized. And at the end of the day, the people who are most organized financially usually don't have financial issues. Mr. V, is there any questions before I jump into the SMART acronym for goal setting?
Not at this very second. They'll
Okay.
come in.
Awesome, awesome. So quick goal setting overview. If you want to make sure that your financial goals are what we call SMART. This is an acronym. SMART, S-M-A-R-T, specific, measurable, actionable, relatable, and time-bound, right? The more specific your goals are, the more real they are. I'll give you an example. If you ask, someone, what's your goal in the next 20 years? Oh man, my goal is I want to be rich. That's not specific. That's not measurable. It's not actionable. It might be relevant, but it's not time bound. Like you have a blank canvas and you didn't get specific. You didn't give yourself direction. A more accurate way is you ask someone, hey, what's your financial goals in the next 15 to 20 years? Oh, well, in the next 10 years, I want to make sure that I have at least, $50,000 in my checking and savings account that's not earmarked towards retirement or towards college or anything. It's just my emergency fund. I want to make sure that, in 20 years, I put myself in a position where I can put a down payment on a nice beach house, right? Like, so you want to have specific, measurable, actionable goals. Like those are extremely important. The more specific that you get, the more real that goal is. Just saying that you want to be rich, there's a lot of people who don't have homes, don't have children, don't have cars, don't have jobs that want to be rich. But what you want to do is you want to have a goal that's specific and measurable and actionable. So hopefully that makes sense. Looks like we're getting a little bit of feedback on there.
I think we got it. Take care.
This slide in regards to wants, it says wants and concerns. It should be more accurately wants and needs, just to understand the financial goals from an overview setting. Wants are, home ownership, vacations, new cars, the latest and greatest stuff. I want to be able to shop at the Tyson Corner Mall every other week. You don't necessarily, quote unquote, need any of those things to survive per se. So it's important that you understand wants from needs, or what this slide says is concerns, right? Like paying your bills, right? That's a need, because if that light bill isn't get paid, or that mortgage or that rent isn't getting paid, then you're going to find an eviction notice, right? So paying your bills is extremely important. That will be a need. Eliminating debt. Debt will keep you from financial freedom. I don't care how much money you have, right? Eliminating debt. By eliminating debt, it actually increases your cash flow and liquidity and puts you in a position where you can have a lot of the things that you want. So there's a direct correlation between the things that you want and the debt that you have. The less debt that you have, the more that you can have some of those things that you want. So hopefully that makes sense. And of course, retirement savings. Again, unless you are planning on working until you're 70, 75, 80 plus, etc., most people have somewhat of an idea in regards to when they want to retire. So that would be a need, having adequate retirement savings so that your money outlives you and not the other way around. If you outlive your money in retirement, that's a problem. And so again, making these things that are needs high on your goal setting list from a prioritized standpoint is one of the foundational principles when it comes to just having a certain quality of life and standard of living when it comes to your financial well-being. So this was actually a survey that Mass Mutual had taken place in, I believe it was September of 2013, where they had about close to several 100,000 people to participate in this survey. And it was just a one question survey that just said, hey, what keeps you up at night? And they had a list of options, and in order, the number one option was income. Income kept them up, whether it was, hey, I'm not making enough, or my income is too low, etc. It was income. Then it was savings, then followed by retirement and debt. So those were the four things that were keeping most people up at night. Now that's 2013. Here we are, call it almost 8 years later from when this survey was done. And I can tell you, probably those four bullet points are probably still 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe between 2 and 3, you can put not getting sick because of where we are right now with the coronavirus pandemic. But again, from a goal setting standpoint, the reason why these are up here is because if your biggest fear is, hey, my income, then that should be prioritized number one. How can you put yourself in a position where your income is going up, where your household income is going up by at least 2% each year, or maybe even 5%, or maybe more? And I'm gonna talk to you about that and how that works. Savings is obviously liquidity, retirement is retirement, and then debt can prevent you from enjoying the top 3. So here is what we call the 5, 10, 15, 20 guideline, if you will, in regards to, 4 financial goals that from a very practical standpoint can help you achieve whatever your definition of financial well-being is. The 5, 10, 15, 20 goal can probably keep you on track. So increasing your annual income by at least 5%. I know that may seem like a lot to certain people, but there's a slide where I kind of show you that maybe you can't do 5%, but if most of us have jobs where, of course, this is pre-COVID, where our income would increase by 2%, right? Even if we didn't get a raise, now you start to add raises, now you may be at 5%. But also if your income can increase, but you can save on expenses, maybe you can hit 5 to 10% each year just by being efficient and reducing your expenses, right? We'll talk about that in a second. Saving at least 10% of your net annual income. This is one of the, I try not to put people in a template when it comes to giving them financial advice, but a good starting point from, okay, Mr. Doss, how much should I save? I would always start off, hey, how can you save? Is there a way that you can save 10% of your household income each year? And for most of us, if we look at it, we're probably spending 10% of our household income on some wants anyway, if you want to be honest. So this goes back to setting a budget, which we'll talk about in a second. But this is something that is attainable for most people. It just requires discipline and consistency. Doesn't require wealth. Doesn't require a big household income. It just requires discipline and consistency. The next one, 15, a retirement that is targeted to be about, say, 15 times what your annual income salary is today. One of the slides that you'll see is from a math standpoint. If you can put yourself in a position where your retirement savings before you retire is equivalent to, say, 15 times whatever your annual household income is, for most people, that's probably going to be somewhere between 75 to 80% of their pre-retirement income. Most of us, if we maintain the same standard of living and quality of life that we had in pre-retirement, in retirement, 75 to 80% of a retirement income isn't all that bad. It's definitely doable because your expenses are going to your expenses will probably decrease for the most part. But I think that is a good measurable. Remember, we're talking about goals, specific, measurable, right? Attainable. Many of us will probably work for, if you're in your mid 30s, I mean, you'll probably work another 20 years at least. This is doable, right? And most of the plans or the strategies I try to create for people, two key words always stick out: a smart and doable strategy, right? If your household income is 50K and your goal in retirement is to retire in Beverly Hills and have a $4 to $5 million home, you can do the math, right? That's probably not attainable, right? That's a goal, but is it smart and is it doable? And so for wherever you are in life, whatever your finances entails, you want to make sure that your goals are smart and doable, or you at least can get in front of someone that can help you, someone that has the expertise in this field that can help you create a smart and doable goal. The 20 is the plan to have your debt, excluding your mortgage, paid down within 20 years at most. That is extremely conservative. Ideally, you want to get that debt paid down as soon as possible, maybe 15 to 10, depending upon the amount of debt you have and the amount of income that you make. But the idea is to start a plan. Don't just have debt and do the wishful thinking, oh, in 3 years. And this is what I hear, right? So I'll hear people who have, who may have anywhere between 25 and 55K of credit card debt. And they're like, yeah, well, my goal is to knock that out in 3 years. And here is my question to them. I say, okay, that's awesome. Like, my job is to encourage you. But what in your life are you going to sacrifice where you can contribute enough after tax dollars to knock down a credit card debt that's 25 or 55K per year? Smart and doable, right? So depending upon where you are, make sure that your goals aren't so challenging that once you realize you can't hit that goal, that you give up, that you lose hope, that your zeal to hit that goal wanes. And that's why it's important to have a specific measurable goal that is doable, that is attainable. Having that smart and doable strategy will not just put you on the path to financial success, but it will encourage you as you see yourself knocking out that debt. So hopefully that makes sense. Any questions before I continue on to the next slide?
Yes, there were two questions that came up. The first was, what are the different retirement vehicles and what are the pros and cons for each? That can be answered. And the second question is, what is liquidity?
Awesome. So let me start from the easiest question to answer. Well, shouldn't say the easiest, the one that takes less time. Liquidity is simple, the amount of cash that you have on hand, right? So let me give you an example, and this will probably be a better way to explain it. If I only have $5,000 in the bank, but I have a credit card that say is 15, that has 15K worth of space on it, most people will say, well, my liquidity is the 15K. I mean, for an emergency fund, maybe, but your liquidity is your cash on hand, right? What you can just pull out where you don't have to borrow, where it's your money, right? That would be that 5K. So ideally, you want to have as much liquidity, I was about to say as much liquidity as possible, but there is a such thing as too much, right? If your expenses are, say, if your 3 to 6 month expenses total, say 30K, but you have 50K in liquidity in your checking account, you have that 20K of excess is actually somewhere where it's inefficient because it's not earning anything. You don't technically need it there. So it's great to have it, but let's put it somewhere where that excess can grow and not just sit in your account. So in that example, whether it's money in your checking and savings or money that's actually in your investment portfolio. Again, not on the credit card. Any money that you can easily pull out, that is the definition of liquidity. In regards to the different retirement plan strategy, there's a lot. There's the 401ks at your employers, or what we call the qualified plans. Those are the 401ks, the TSPs, the 403bs. And then there's also a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. So there's a few type of retirement vehicles that you can use. The one that's most important to the individual is, what are you trying to do, right? Like, so again, it's all about having these goals that are specific and measurable, right? So if you say, hey, my goal is to have as much tax-free income as possible in retirement, then maybe dumping a ton of money into an IRA or a tax deferred account may not be the best or the most efficient option for you. So it just, again, it depends. There's a lot of vehicles that are out there, but it's all about, what are you trying to accomplish? What is the most efficient financial vehicle for you? And so again, if you have any more questions than that, maybe once we finish this, we can put my contact info, so that people can contact me if they wish. It was on the we can go to the front page of this presentation. But from a general sense, there's a lot of options out there. It just depends on what your goal and objective is. So hopefully that answers your question. Income goal. So as you see on the screen, set a goal of increasing your income by 5% each year. Well, Mr. Doss, what if nobody where I work has been able to do anything like that? What can I do? Well, you can't do 5, or maybe you can do 2%. And again, this is just a goal, right? I know there's a lot of things that are outside of your realm of control when it comes to whether you can, get raises or get promotions or get cost of living adjustments, etc. But from just a number standpoint, I want you to see how important just having a 2% annual salary increase per year is. And also from a number standpoint, how it can put you on the right track to be efficient. And you got to remember, we are blessed in this, I consider the Fauquier County as well, part of the Northern Virginia area. I mean, most jobs in this area, you go to, say, South Carolina or West Virginia or Mississippi or even Tennessee. I mean, there are school teachers in our area that make over 100K, right? You go to Tennessee, school teachers make 50, 45, right? You go to South Carolina, some teachers only making 40 and 45K, right? So in our area, because the cost of living is so high, the salaries are somewhat commiserate. And so there's usually some type of cost of living adjustment, or at least an annual salary increase of 2%. That's not a hard rule, but in general, when you look at the totality of all the jobs that we have. So just from a number standpoint, you have someone that, say, at age 30, that they have a salary of 75K. If you just add a 2% annual increase on that amount each year, by the time they get to age 67, this person would have earned over $4 million. That is significant, just by a 2% annual increase. I know a lot of us, especially in this area, we change jobs. We know people who go from, hey, well, at this job I was making 40, and then I got this new job, now I'm making 60. Then I'm there for a few years, and then I get a promotion. Now I'm not making 60, now I'm making 72. Then I go to this other organization, and they'll pay me 85, plus I get a bonus. So in our area, it's a lot easier. Not saying that it's crazy easy, but when you compare where we live to, say, other areas of the country, it's a lot easier to get on this 2% annual salary increase per se, whether it's actual 2% each year or whether it's an average over, in the last 4 years, my salary has went, because maybe I was somewhere where my salary was capped for 2 or 3 years and I felt like I was stuck, and then I went and got a job somewhere else and my salary went up by 15K, right? So that average might be somewhere like over time 2%, but it's a huge blessing to be able to have an occupation in the Washington, D.C. area, in that D.C. metropolitan area, because of the cost of living and because of the salary. So this is just to give you an example of how in real tangible numbers, how just that 2% annual salary increase can pay some huge dividends over time. So if you look at the same hypothetical, but the same individual that's going to work for 37 years with the salary at age 30 starting out at 75K, you know what that earned income over the 37 years at a 2%, but look at it at 3%, at 4%, then at 5%. I mean, like this, these numbers are staggering, but just by having that goal, here's why it's important. And again, this is practical income goals, like practical, foundational, financial literacy, if you will. Being able to treat people and be generous, to do your job without someone kind of hovering and babysitting over you, to do your job good, and to be nice and to be generous and to be someone that people want to work with, directly puts you on path for this 2 to 3 to 4% increase. Trust me on this. I have clients all over the country, and I'm telling you, those clients whose salaries increase, doesn't matter what their education was, doesn't matter where they started. Those people who are generous, who are nice, just basic principles about life and how to treat people, usually regardless of where their income is, they can get on this path of always seem to get that increase each year, even if they need to leave their current employer for someone else. And that's where references come into play. Again, how you treat people. So all that stuff about being a good person is absolutely connected. So this is just the tangible numbers so that you guys can see what that 2, 3, 4% and 5% increase on income looks like when, in every hypothetical scenario that we have in these four, the person started out at age 30 making 75K. And then how do you increase your income each year from 2 to 5%? Again, we talked about the increase of your actual income, but also minimizing your tax exposure. That's why it's so important to work with a competent CPA or accountant that can help you minimize your taxes, because minimize your taxes, that's going to increase your liquidity. That's going to increase your cash flow, so to speak. Being able to seek overtime pay or merit increases. There was a lot of people, because remember, when the coronavirus pandemic first hit, you couldn't go anywhere. Hotels, vacations, Disney World, all that stuff was shut down. So there was a lot of people that said, well, hey, since I'm blessed to have a job and I'm stuck in a house anyway, I'm just going to work longer. There's a lot of people that actually, the silver lining in the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, I know a lot of bad stuff has happened, but the silver lining was that their ability where, they were already home. So they said, hey, I might as well get paid for it and try to increase my pocketbook or try to increase my wallet. So seeking overtime pay or merit increase will also help. Join the sharing economy, right? Like if you still have to drive to work to DC or et cetera, being able to commute with someone, going the sluggo route, like minimizing your cost. Again, anything that you can do to minimize and reduce your expenses while your income is increasing is actually going to exacerbate an increase that, even though it's 2% actually, but because your expenses are being minimized, the actual increase of your liquidity and cash flow could be somewhere between 5, 6, 7%. That happens a lot. And also turn your passions into cash. I always tell people that the DC area is the capital of 2-job people, right? 2-job parents. It's like everyone has their job, what they do, and then they have that thing that they like to do that can put a few dollars in their pocket, each month, each week, etc. So you have some people, whether it's whether it's refereeing or coaching or Mary Kay or any type of I have literally, I would probably say about 80 to 90% of the clients who I have who are teachers, they are also real estate agents. Every single last one of them, about 85 to 90% of them. And so again, it's just turning their passion into cash. So that may be something to think about as well. So again, I know it's the traffic capital of earth, it feels like it, but there's so much opportunities here, like so much. So much. I mean, in other parts of the country, those economies are really hurting. The DC area, I mean, for the most part, it's going to be still rocking and rolling for the most part. And so take advantage of that where, I mean, there's so many people and there seems to be so many jobs. Again, we're blessed to live here as opposed to some other parts of the country where those economies as a whole, those towns, those small cities, they don't have the vibrancy economically that we have here. And then setting a savings goal. Remember, considering setting the 10%, the goal of having 10% of your income. That's what you're going to save. And a lot of people, they play mind games with themselves because they know if I see it in my check or if I see it in my account, I know myself, Mr. Dawes, I don't have enough discipline to keep it there. So what they do is once they get paid, they automatically have, 10% of their check going to another account that they don't see. Right. And so it's knowing who you are, but having the discipline and the consistency to make this a goal. You'll be amazed at what just doing 10% will do. And that 10% can be used for whether it's an emergency fund or, hey, in a few years, I want to put a down payment on a home, or, hey, I have 3 kids. I'm going to use part of this 10% of my annual income each year that I'm dedicated to saving. I'm going to use that to fund my children's college education. Or whether you're like, hey, I know that in a few years I'm going to need a new car, or I really want this dream vacation to Europe outside once the COVID thing is gone. I really want this vacation to a nice spot. Again, is the juice worth the squeeze? And this is what I mean. Like, if it's important enough to you, then you will be willing to make the sacrifice for it, right? A lot of people say they want to be rich, but do they want to do the things that it takes, the sacrifices that it takes to make themselves rich and wealthy, right? If you have a goal of, hey, in the next 10 years, I want to have a household income of 250K. Again, what type of sacrifices are you going to make? Are you going to increase your education? Are you going to have a budget so that you have the liquidity to be able to buy the books or go back to school or go to community college or do something to increase your learning so that the next time that job that you want opens, that you apply for it and you put yourself in the best position to receive it, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze? There's a lot of people that talk about how they want to be well off, but it's just talk because they don't do the things that it takes. They don't make the sacrifices that it takes to put themselves in a position where they can realize and bring that goal to fruition. So for them, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's just talk. Make sure that you are not that person. So as you can see here, this is a real life example from a number standpoint of what that 10% savings from your take-home pay can do for you. So you have someone that has annual gross salary. So this is pre-tax of 75K based on if this person is in, say, the average tax bracket, if you will. That monthly savings of 10% will be $469 a month, which isn't, again, it's not earth-shattering. It's just, do you have the discipline and the consistency to do this? And if you put that money, right, that this person would save this 469, if you put it in some, interest-bearing account that grows, like that's tied to the stock market in some capacity, and let's say that it just averages 5%, which is not great, especially in this market. This market is doing gangbusters, right? But that 5%, that 469 that you save each month at 5% over, in this example, 37 years, the savings will be at least $585,000. That's powerful. That's powerful. And then there's two places that your savings can come from: new income, and we talked about it, reduced expenses. Any questions so far?
No, everybody seems to be keeping up.
Okay, awesome. So saving through new income and reduced expenses, right? So maybe that 469 is not all new income. Maybe half of it is new income, that increase that you get, whether it's a cost of living adjustment or whether it's a raise or a promotion. And maybe the other half is coming from your reduced expenses, right? So you got new income coming in, reduced expenses going out. That may give you the monthly savings that you need to start saving at a decent amount with a consistent rate, consistent, disciplined, and this may put you on path to get to that 10% household income that you're able to save each year. And again, that's just powerful, small, practical steps. Ways you can attain your goals. We talked about budget, how that's important. And right now, I mean, you can go almost online and get any type of spreadsheet. There's a million, and I'm not even exaggerating, there's probably a million budget calculators. You put in your info and then it'll do all the calculations for you, and just walk it out. Just follow those instructions. We talked about automatic savings where the money comes out before you see it. So in your mind, you never really got paid. You can have that money withdrawn and it goes to an account. I know some people who actually, some people who, I'm not going to say they don't trust themselves, but they know themselves enough that when they get paid, that they're a certain percentage of their money is already being withdrawn and it goes to a savings account that's not at the bank where they have their checking. It's going into an account at a different bank that they don't even have a card for. That if they have to pull any money from that account, that they physically have to go to that bank, which is nowhere near where they live. Well, I shouldn't say nowhere near, but it's like, 35 minutes away. And they do that, and they did that to make it hard so that, unless it is literally a life-altering event, it is a major emergency, they know that, man, I'm not going to get in my car and drive 35 minutes just to go pull out some money from bank when those people know, and that's the mind trick that they play with themselves. And what happens is over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they get a statement and go, man, it's 25 grand in that account. That is a cool surprise to have, right? So just know yourself. Not saying that may work for you. I'm just giving you a real life example on what some people who I work with do when they know themselves, right? Higher yields, of course, we talked about that. We can only talk about it, but so much, because it's not a investment presentation per se. But just know that, educate yourself on how the market works. Not that you need to be a financial advisor, but just understand, again, it's a great tool, like all of these. The great tools to use to get you from where you are to where you want to be. So make sure that you do the research, make sure you go to credible sources. And again, you can always shoot me an email if you want to know what those sources are, or you want to bounce ideas off me. And then lower costs through new technologies. As technology advances, it saves you money, saves you time, and that is real savings. We talked about previously the retirement goal: 15 times your pre-retirement income is, I guess you call it the rule of thumb, but just at least. Right now, some people that I work with, they have a specific goal for retirement because they want a specific lifestyle. Demetrius, I've been living in a metropolitan city all of my life because I know that that's where the high salaries are. Once I retire, I want to be on the beach. So I already know I already know how much a beach house is on the east or the west or the southern part of Florida per se, or Texas or New Orleans, etc. Right? Like, so just make sure that whatever your retirement goal number is based on this, 15, you might need 18, you might need 20% of your pre-retirement income. That is contingent upon whatever type of retirement lifestyle you want in the future. So make sure you don't want to say, okay, I want my income to be X, but I want my retirement income, it needs to be here, but I really want this type of retirement lifestyle. Well, that's not matching, brother and sister. That ain't matching. So again, you want to make sure that there's a match. And then smart and doable. So as you can see here, just from simple math, if you have 15 times your current income, it can generate, if it's in an interest-bearing account over time, especially in retirement, can generate at least 75% of your pre-retirement income, just off of numbers. So what else do you need to consider when determining the size of your retirement nest egg? Know your investment profile, right? And what that means in English, right, for people who aren't a financial advisor, is understand your risk tolerance, right? Yeah, there's a lot of people that want $4, $5, $6 million in retirement, but if the only way to get there means that you have to invest aggressively, but the moment that your account value drops by, say, 10 grand, you get nauseous, like you're about to throw up, then you're too risky. It doesn't fit your risk profile. Then you need to be a little bit more moderate. Maybe you don't your investments don't grow as something that's aggressive, but maybe it's a little less because it's more palatable, it's more comfortable for you. Hopefully that makes sense. I always tell people that the difference between the stock market and the casinos is that for the most part, you can lose everything overnight. Usually with the market, takes more time, right? But it still is somewhat of a gamble, and you need to understand that. And so there are pros and cons to every financial vehicle, including the awesomeness of the stock market, right? We all know people who, when the mortgage bubble burst in '08, there was a lot of people who were jumping out of buildings because all their retirement income, it seemed like over a series of weeks and months, was gone like that. So again, just understand your risk tolerance, and also the amount of retirement contributions that you can make, right? And this is important because this is the quality of life and standard of living. I always tell people, you should not, this isn't correct English, but you guys will know what I'm saying. You shouldn't go broke. I was about to say you shouldn't be going broke, but you shouldn't go broke by contributing to a retirement strategy. So if you have to use all of your liquidity, all of your disposable income, that means money after you pay your bills, whatever is left, you shouldn't be using all of that towards a retirement strategy in the future, because that's silly, right? There's a certain quality of life and standard of living that you need to have, especially if you have kids, right? You want to spend time with them. Sometimes spend time with kids, take them on vacation, spend family time. If you have a spouse, you still should be dating, like just simple stuff like that. So the amount that you contribute, you also need to ascertain what is the right amount for you based on your current quality life and standard of living that you want to have. Build other assets. Remember, everything's not all about investments. It should be about, maybe it's about investments. Maybe it's also how can we build a real estate portfolio, or how can we How can we become a minority owner or a majority owner in this business, right? And so people hear the word diversification and they automatically assess that towards investment, but it's the diversification of your overall portfolio. Not everything should be aggressive. Not everything should be a gamble. You should have some conservative financial vehicles in your portfolio as well. And then estimated living expenses is going to be key, right? If you're going to have a retirement lifestyle where you want to ball out, you probably going to need more than just a few $100,000 of retirement income when you retire to facilitate that. So just understand whatever type of retirement lifestyle you want to have, there's certain expenses associated with that. So make sure that you do your due diligence or sit down with someone that's competent that can walk you through the process, or like a financial advisor or someone like a financial planner that does this. Like it's worth it. It's worth it, because remember, you only get one shot to do retirement right. If you are in retirement and you find out that you were wrong about everything, can you start all over? And that's why this is important. And then increase healthcare costs. Understand that healthcare costs is obviously important. You don't want to have a retirement lifestyle that if some type of medical situation arises, it eats up 75% of your retirement savings. Long-term care insurance can help with that, et cetera, and some other things, which goes outside of the realm of this conversation. But this just, the focal point that I want you to understand is just assessing and having goals and objectives, and make sure that you think about the pros and cons of everything. If healthcare expenses would increase for me, what's a good percentage of my overall retirement savings that I need to somewhat have earmarked for that? Like, these are things you want to think about now, not when you hit that retirement button and they show up. Now debt, and this is a pretty simple slide. It's just considering setting a goal to pay down your debt in 20 years. It just, shows that in year one. Let me use my little annotation here so you can see where the red dot is. So you can see in year one, you may have a lot of debt, but if you're consistent over time, you can see how that debt increases. As the debt increases, it gives you more cash flow and liquidity. So this is just, just basic principles, freeing up your money to allocate towards personal savings and retirement accounts. There's a lot of people, especially middle-class families, that there's enough money going out of their home that they can have the retirement lifestyle that they want. The problem is, it's going towards things like debt. It's going towards some other efficient financial vehicles. And so again, this should be important to you, because as I always tell parents, especially when it comes to not just this, but also when it comes to paying for college, is there are literally hundreds of financial institutions that will pay for your student to go to college. But I don't know any financial institution that's going to give mom and dad money to have the retirement lifestyle that they want. So for the most part, your retirement, that onus is on you. And you want to prepare and plan sooner rather than later. You can't wait until 2 years before you're about to retire and go, okay, now I'm about to be serious about retirement. I need to create a plan. Sister, you should have had that plan like 10, 15, 20 years ago. So the earlier you can start thinking about these things, I promise you, the better. And then balance debt with other goals. So there's a balance, right? You don't want all of your liquidity or all of your disposable income to go towards your debt, but you don't also want all of your disposable income to go towards your wants and fun stuff, because then when you don't address the debt, it just gets bigger and bigger over time. So there's a balance that you need to have, and that's why this is important. Being debt-free in retirement, that should be besides having a retirement goal, the second goal is to have a debt-free retirement, period. And then, of course, to save more, challenge yourself, right? Start out with something like, okay, if you've never tried to save, I'm not telling you to jump out there and do 2%. Sorry, do 10% in year one. Maybe you start out, let's do 5. It's doable. Whether your income is 40K or 400. Let's start out with 5. Or can we start out with 10? Wherever you can start out that you know is comfortable, start there just to see yourself be disciplined and consistent. Then maybe in year 3, you go, okay, hey, I got this 10% down pat. My income has increased a little bit. Can I do 12 or 15? Right? Challenge yourself. The more that you can get, right? I'm blessed to work with some people that have put themselves in a position where, over a long period of time, they have literally saved half of every check, half of their income, they saved it. For them, the juice was worth the squeeze. And that's why at 50, 52, 53, they're going to be able to retire and have a 30+ year retirement at least, because they made the sacrifices. So you have to find out what you can do. For them, they could do half of their income. They didn't have a ton of expenses. They didn't have a lot of debt. They have pretty nice salaries. So again, just don't compare yourself to other people, but start where you are and where you can. And then just from a debt elimination standpoint, know your debt. As a financial advisor that's been an advisor for over 12 years, I can't tell you how many times I have sat in front of people, especially middle class, moms and dads, good household income, and they have no idea their actual debt amount. They have an estimate, but don't have any idea. If you don't know that your actual amount of debt that you have, how do you know when you can pay it off? Right? And so there's also good debt, bad debt. Mortgage is good debt, right? You put the down payment on, you get you a 30-year mortgage, get you a 15 or et cetera. Like it seems that most people only like their mortgage interest when it's tax time. It's the only time that most people like that big mortgage, like, oh man, that mortgage came through. But throughout the rest of the year, like, man, this thing is killing me. Know the good debt. That's not a bad debt. Even also automobiles, not technically bad because you're still using, like we can talk about the depreciation, but it's something that you use every day to get you from point A to point B. It's not bad. Personal loans, credit card debt, right? To a certain extent, maybe even student loan debt. Those are bad debts. Student loan debts isn't necessary, right? Because you needed to get the education to be able to have the high salary. So it's the chicken and the egg theory. But I believe you get what I'm saying. Know the good debt versus the bad debt. Obviously, the credit card debt, personal loans, etc. That debt will kill you. And then set priorities. When do you want this stuff paid off? Set priorities. How much of your monthly income can you allocate and say, okay, if my monthly income is $3,000 a month, after I pay all of my bills, I have $1,000 left over, which includes food and stuff. Can you take half and make that this $500 each month? I'm going to use this to pay down my debt. Can you do more? Whatever you can do, but that's how you want to look at it. You want to have that much of a detailed plan, because when you are that specific about the details of your goals, you will hit them. And again, as your debt increases, your savings and cash flow increases over time. So in reviewing, this is the last slide. Having financial goals can help you achieve financial well-being, and consider what matters the most to you, right? Income, savings, retirement, debt. Prioritize those in some capacity, you should probably be focusing on all four of those if you have debt off all four of those. Some people don't. But you want to make a concerted effort to have financial goals, right? Some people have goals on, hey, before I'm 30, I want to be married and I want to start having a family. Be that specific, right? Be that specific about your financial goals. Again, we talked about the 5, 10, 15, 20 SMART goals. Remember, you always want your goals SMART, S-M-A-R-T. That's the acronym: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. Put a time on it. Put the pressure on yourself to do whatever goal it is in a certain amount of time. And with that, I will open it up to any questions that anybody may have. I'm actually going to go to the I actually go back to the top so that my contact info is up there in case people want to ask me any questions.
All right. I don't know if you can answer some of these in this form. We talk. One of the things that we talk about the pros and cons about the retirement vehicles and liquidity. We answered to a degree. Then somebody asked the question: how does any of this work if you have more outgo than income? And that's just getting down to the nitty gritty of us folks who work at the bottom rung. The other thing is it futile for somebody to only be able to save $10 a week? Are we kidding ourselves, or is there a possibility at that level? And then we got two more questions. This is about the best retirement strategy if you have more liquidity in retirement. And then they wanted to discuss diversified savings and recommendations, if you can give those.
Okay.
And then the other was, are debt consolidation loans usually a good or bad idea?
Okay, that's a lot. So let's go back to that first question. What was the first question about the
retirement vehicles, pros and cons, or you want the one about more outgo than income?
More outgo than income. Yeah. Okay. So in that, can you stop the bleeding? Right? I don't know what your situation is, but if there's more money going out than coming in, then there are definite real life choices, and they may be uncomfortable, that you are going to have to put a stop on to address the outgo. And this is what I mean, right? And again, I don't know your situation. This will be like offline, shoot me an email. But the first question I would have, the first thing I would look at is, what are the outgoing expenses? And then literally going line item to line item, how can we eliminate them, or why are they here? Right? So if it's something like, hey, well, my household household income is only $3,000. I'll just use that as a round number. My household income is only $3,000 a month, but our rent is $2,000. I can tell you right now that just based on that number, you overextended yourself on where you're living. So that question, again, this just give you an example, but going line item to line item is, okay, how can we get out of this situation so that there's more money coming in than money going out? And that may be a complete change of lifestyle. But there's a lot of questions without knowing all your stuff, but that's how you would have to address it. You have to look at the line item. Why do I have so much more expenses than income coming in? You got to be honest with yourself, because if not, then that situation is going to swallow you whole, and you will feel like you are a hamster in that wheel, that you're moving real fast, but you're going nowhere. So that would be my answer. That's about as quasi-specific as I can get based on that. And there was like 3 questions after that. So you can just go in each order, and I'll address them one at a time, if you don't mind.
What is the best retirement strategy so you have more liquidity in retirement? And it's about discuss diversified savings and what are your recommendations?
Yeah, so that is a too specific question because there is no silver bullet. I don't care what financial advisor that you talk to, they should never try to take you and put you in a template. So there's not one quote unquote vehicle that's going to be the end all and do all for everyone. Most people, I would probably say 90% of Americans, they're going to have a hybrid strategy. They'll have some qualified plans, which is like the what you have with your employers, the 401ks, the 403bs, the TSPs. They may have some brokerage accounts, some money that they can just put in the market that's outside of a qualified plan. They may have a little bit of real estate. They might be able to save a little. So it just depends. It's not going to be a silver bullet. And without me knowing everything that you're without me knowing where you are and where you're trying to be, I can't really answer that question probably like you want me to. But this is just to give you a general idea. You won't have one thing where if I do this, I'm okay. If anyone tells you that, and whether they are a licensed advisor or not, run. Forrest, run, because that is unethical. That person is already starting off wrong. You need to separate yourself from that person. So most people will have some type of blended strategy, and it may be a variety of things, right? So it's not a product that's going to help you. It's going to be a strategy. The strategy will encompass several different products to help you get from where you are to where you want to be.
There's some level of income where you would tell somebody it's just not feasible for you to try to save money. You only make $10,000 a year.
Nope. The the only time I tell people that it's no use is if you are 6 feet deep. As long as you are alive, do something, because it's not so much the amount that you need to focus on, it's the behavior. This is what I try to teach people a lot. Most people who are either broke or don't have money, even if you make, I'll give you a perfect example. This is a perfect example, real life example. So in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, right, average household income is probably about $250. I have a lot of clients that make more than that. But you're broke if your household income is $300, but you're $250K in debt because you got credit cards and a bunch of other stuff. So that person, even though on paper they might look sexy, their quality of life and standard of living is not that great. Take that to someone, true story. I remember a few years ago when I was doing a ton of, matter of fact, this was 2017, when I spent more time in North Carolina and South Carolina than I was in Virginia. Like almost every week, I had to go to North Carolina, South Carolina for a seminar. Ran across a guy who made $45K. And he said that he had the perfect lifestyle because he made $45K, but he wasn't in debt. And he had more than 6 months of savings set up over time. Now, what he communicated to me was, he said, Mr. Doss, he was like, I can't buy no Mercedes. I can't buy no huge single family house. But he was like, but I can get a new car if I need it without having to put it on a credit card, or without, honestly, he didn't even have to finance it. He had enough on cash. And it wasn't because he had a ton, it's because he was a good steward with the little that he had. So let's compare this guy that makes 45K and has, based on his income, had a decent amount of liquidity, and he couldn't get no fancy car, but he could get a new car if he wanted it. He could go on vacation and not put it on a credit card. You compare that person to, say, the person I told you in the previous example that had a household income of 200, 300K, lived in Tyson's Corner, but their debt almost equaled their income. My question to you is, who has a better quality of life and standard of living? It has nothing to do with the amount of money. It has everything to do with what type of steward are you with what you have. So to start a good financial behavior, if you can only do $10 a month, then do $10 a month. be faithful with the little you have, and I promise you, at some point, you'll have enough good habits where your little will start to increase and you'll start to get more opportunity. So hopefully that makes sense.
Next question is, are debt consolidation loans usually a good or bad idea?
So like a lot of my answers, it depends. It depends on the details, right? If you have to make sure that you understand the totality. What I would say is, whatever you do, if you're thinking about going the debt consolidation amount, it makes sense to go speak with, a competent financial advisor or financial planner and ask them. Now, that planner may charge you because it's their intellectual capital, right? They may charge you, say, okay, hey, if for this will take me to kind of walk you through it and walk through the details. It may take an hour and a half to 2 hours of my time. Maybe that costs you $300, but that $300 would be worth it because you're sitting down with a competent person that can let you know if this debt strategy makes sense. Because sometimes the details and the fine print are too convoluted and complicated to understand unless you are in our industry. And that's really unfortunate. But that's just the honest to God truth. So I can't give you a specific answer to that question because I don't know the details, but do your research. Do your research. Make sure that you understand the pros and cons and then weigh them. Here are all the pros of going the debt consolidation route. Boom, 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 boom. Here are the cons if I go this route. Boom, 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 boom. And then you have to make the best intelligent choice that you can if you're going to make this choice on your own. But I would say something like that, especially if it's a lot of debt and you know that maybe doing the debt consolidation thing, it may help, but the interest may be crazy. Sit down with somebody that knows a thing or two about that before you put yourself out there, because once you go into those contracts, it's extremely difficult to get out of them by design. So get as many second opinions as you can.
Is there a certain income level where a financial advisor will not talk to you? Like, I only make $11,000 a year. Should I see a financial advisor, or should I just wing it on my own?
So yes. And so there are some advisors who are fee-based planners. So, it would be, I'll give you an example. So it's unethical, and they know this, and this is why they can't sit down and meet with someone. If your household income is 20 grand a year, but the financial advisor or the financial planner that you're seeing, they charge $2,000, $3,000 for a plan. Even if you were able to muster that liquidity to pay for that plan, that's a bad planner. He knows better. And that's why most advisors that are fee-based planners, they won't work with you, not because they're being rude people, but because ethically they'll get in tons of trouble. The numbers just don't work out, right? For someone that only makes 20K to essentially be putting a considerable percentage of their income towards a plan, like that's so yes, unfortunately. So you can do your due diligence and just see if there is an advisor that will be willing to work with you, or maybe the fee-based planner will be able to say, hey, I can spend 30 minutes with you to look over your stuff and tell you what to do, because to them that may not be such a bad use of their time. What they want to avoid is they don't want to spend 2 hours or have 4 meetings with someone that has a low household income, because then based on their billable hour, it's not efficient for them, right? So if you have to think about it this way: why would you work for a financial advisor who's going to teach you about how to be more efficient with your money, but by them doing that, it's not efficient for them to work with you just based on how their billable hour works. You see what I'm saying? And so hopefully that makes sense. So there is a certain amount of income. There's a ton of resources that you can find online, right? I would say to like most people, if you're below middle class, I don't think it makes a ton of sense to sit down with an advisor. That's going to charge you a fee. Now, there's some advisors that have no problem. Hey, I can sit down with you, because I want to serve. I can spend one meeting with you. And then after that, if you have a few questions, as long as you don't inundate me and send me a question every day. But if it's just like, hey, maybe, a few questions here every, few months, I don't have no problem. So just talk and just be upfront with the advisor. Like, let them know your situation. Usually they can, if they don't know an advisor that will be willing to work with you, they can direct you to a free resource that can help. And usually every state has a ton of free resources.
I mean, I would put that in the camp of you have not because you ask not. Um, if
Yes,
I would not tell myself no, I would try to get an advisor to tell me no. And,
absolutely.
and
The
I think
the
that's
the
the
worst
mindset of a lot
thing,
of people is because you have a certain income level and you think that you can't participate in this game and you're talking yourself out of it without someone who's qualified to tell you that no, you can really do this. And like you said earlier, Demetrius, it's going to be a change of mindset, but that wealth accumulation is possible.
absolutely. The thing I tell people with that is like, the only thing that they can say is no. Like, don't be afraid of no. And it's okay. Like, but you ask. But to what Pastor uh Keith is saying, and I've used this analogy a lot to, clients who I have that go to church and those who don't, because they understand the principle. Don't be a grasshopper in your own eyes. Honestly, right? Don't be a grasshopper in your own mind and in your own eyes. If it's a no, don't you tell yourself no. Just ask, hey, Mr. Advisor, I really want to get on the right path to financial well-being. My household income is X. I'm looking for guidance. Can you spend a few meetings with me, or just ask? And they may say, listen, I can't spend a few meetings with you, but I can shoot you some resources. There you go. But don't be afraid of a no. To what Pastor Keith is saying, makes a ton of sense. Don't be a grasshopper in your own eyes.
I mean, if the numbers are to be believed, I mean, the wealth within the African American community, when pulled together, would make us the 15th largest nation in the world. And so there is wealth there. How we're managing it is what's causing some equality. It's not just the fact of jobs. I'm not discounting those particular things, but
Right.
there's obviously some money in the community. We just need to change our mindset instead of being consumers, being those who can actually, put grain in the storehouse.
Absolutely. I always tell people it's not the amount of money, it's the financial behavior, right? Because I tell people a lot. Like, I'll sit down with people and it's silly. And they'll say, oh, sit down with someone that make, almost 200 grand a year. They're like, man, if I just made more money, I could have this. And I have to tell them, I was like, no, if you just made more, you'll be more who you are. If you in debt at 200 grand, what makes you think you're not going to be in debt at 400 grand? Like, for most people, having more money just going to make you more of who your finance. The key is what is going to change your financial behavior. And this is what Pastor Keith was talking about, like the renewing of your mind, being able to hey, you know what, maybe I need to do some more research in regards to financial literacy. How can I stop borrowing so much and put myself in a position where I can be a lender and not a borrower? That's financial behavior. And that's the first thing that I look for. So when I'm sitting down with someone for the first time, honestly, I don't care about how much money they make. I don't even care about how much money they have. I want to know what type of financial, I'm trying to discover what are their real financial behaviors. Because you're going to have a lot of money, but if your personality and your behaviors are going to give me a headache, every person I sit down and work with, the question I have is, okay, by me working with this person, I'm spending time away from my wife and my kids. And I also coach. So that's like, I coach, I'm crazy. I have coached 3 different basketball teams. So that's 26 kids, including mine, that's 28. So if I'm going to work with someone, that means I'm taking time away from my wife, my kids, and then my other kids. If I'm going to take away time from those people who I care about the most, I don't want I don't want to see that person on my calendar and go, oh my gosh, I can't deal with that person right now. Like, so that's personality and that's financial behavior. So that's what I'm looking for, right? So most advisors, if you have good personality and hey, my household income is 30 grand, but percentage wise, I'm saving like 16, 18, 20% of my household income. And there's certain things I just don't know about stuff that I don't know. And I'm looking to be educated. Man, there's enough advisors that was like, man, I'll sit down and talk with you for a second. No problem. But if they don't and they just say no, okay, there is plenty of stuff you can find online. Trust me. What you gotta ascertain is, how reliable is that info? But there's a lot of stuff online. But then there's, and it's not just me, but there's a lot of advisors that's like, man, you shoot me an email. Like if whatever I can do to help and get people from out of the valley to on top of the mountain, and that's my job. So hopefully that answers those questions. Good questions though. These are good, real questions.
Again, I'll put my plug in for those who may not have been on when we first started up. I don't just have I know this guy based off of someone directed him to me. I've entrusted him with my family's finances based on the presentation that he presented to us. And I don't have him on here because I get some sort of kickback for everybody I direct his way. I think that's illegal also. I
It
have him
is.
on here
It
based
is.
on what I know. What I know what he has done for me and my family. And I believe he can do the same thing for other families if you just, give him that opportunity. But again, don't sit there and listen to him and thinking that, I only make 12, 13, $15,000. He can't do nothing for me. You don't know that.
No,
And
no.
and
Right.
we need to stop talking ourselves out of that. Give it a shot. If you have questions and maybe you're not watching this live, maybe you're watching this after the fact. If you have questions, myself and Reverend Holland, we check the comments for a little while. You can put the question in there, but the contact information for Demetrius is up there. You can contact him directly. And at least the first time, he's not going to, blow you off. It's, but
Absolutely.
take the chance. Take the chance. And again, this whole forum is about, trying to eliminate some of the inequalities that we have in the community. But it can't be everybody doing everything for us.
Yeah.
We have to get this information within our community, which is one of the reasons we have Demetrius on here. But then we
Yep.
have to take that information and use it for our particular situation. As he said on more than one occasion, that it's not a cookie cutter. My situation is not going to be your situation. It's not going to be Reverend Holland's situation. And it's customizable. I have talked to people in the past who have showed up at the house and they've seen all of our finances and then tell me, you need to put $3,000 a month aside. And I just kind of look at them cockeyed. It's like, if I had $3,000 a month, you probably wouldn't be sitting here. What I need for you to do is tell me to take what I have and put it in the best vehicles for where I want to be in the future. And that's exactly what Demetrius did for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always, um, I take pride in what I do. And Pastor Keith, he knows this, but I've been an advisor at this same firm in Tyson's Corner. It's one of the high rises in Tyson's Corner for 12, this December to be 12 years. So I've been here for a while and I go everywhere. I have never met another financial advisor in Tyson's Corner that looks like me. And that's not to say that they're not there. I've never seen them. I have never seen them. So I take the responsibility to get to where I am from the projects of South Philadelphia. How in the world did this dude get from, at one point, South Philly was like the murder capital of earth, it seemed like. How in the world did this boy get from there to get to the point where he in a high rise in Tyson's Corner and he's working with families all over the country? It's God's grace. I was chosen and I know it. And I don't have a problem. I love, like, put the pressure on me. I love it. I'm not going to embarrass my culture. But I also know that sometimes my culture, we got to get out of our own way so that we can get the education and get the help that we need. So hopefully that makes sense. And I commend Pastor Keith. I commend Mr. V and everyone that put together this this forum. This is so needed. It's so timely. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, I've had, I've actually had people who were referred to me, who look like me, who came to my office and saw the glass doors and the secretary and were so intimidated that they literally just didn't show up and sent the email like, let me get back to you.
Mhm.
It's happened a lot. We have to get out of our own way. And historically, we don't do a great job. Well, I'll speak from myself. Um, most of most of my family, probably up until maybe 10 years ago, was still in South Philly, still on welfare because they wanted to be there. Think of how just ignorant that sounds. Like, I know these people. These are people in my family. They just refuse to do better because they always wanted a handout. And they made an occupation out of receiving handouts. They could work the welfare system like you can't believe. They didn't want to get out of their own way. And the moment that I received this calling to do this, I told myself, and my mom always reminds me, and I always tell her, like, I go see a lot of people, right? I go all over the place. And I think I told this to Pastor Keith. I would probably say I mean, 90% of my clients don't look like me. So anytime I'm in an environment where I can educate my culture, I I do it with as much passion as I can. But we also have got to stop being intimidated with our finances and with numbers so that we can do better for the next generation. So we can do better for ourselves and for the next generation.
Amen.
So again, I thank you guys for this opportunity. What you guys are doing is amazing and it's generational changing. Financial literacy is so important, and the fact that I have an opportunity to be one of those conduits is something that I don't take lightly.
Amen. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming on. I see in the comments that at least one person's going to reach out to you. And again, depending on how many people watch this after the fact and get this information and decide to do something with it, some more may come out of it. Now, once again, our purpose is just to get you the information, and prayerfully, you'll take this information and utilize it and begin. And it doesn't matter when you start in your life. You'll never finish the journey if you never started. So you could be 30, 40, 50 years old. You may just now be getting into it, but something is better than nothing. And if not for you, I mean, it'll be for the generation after you. So again, Demetrius, we thank you so much for coming on. And I know we
No
didn't talk a
problem.
lot about college stuff here this evening, but he does have a specialized presentation for college funding. We've done that twice down here in Warrenton, and if the demand is there, we will, have him come back and do that. Whether or not that can be on the forum, that might be something a little bit different, but definitely having him come back live to talk about those things. So again, if you have questions, put those in the comment section. If they're for us, if there's something specific for Demetrius, please reach out to him. You have his email and his phone number. And so with that, thanks again, and we will see you during our next forum.
Awesome. You guys take care.
All
All right, take care. Good to meet you, son.
Yes, sir. Likewise.